Hi and good evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Shakil 5858. I am Buddham. Now the latest headlines from world channels and news agencies.
Purported leak
I've never seen before.
Now we're talking, baby.
Rugby league diplomacy. Australia and PNG reach a historic $600 million agreement to get the Pacific nation into the NRL.
Rugby league is PNG's national sport, and PNG deserves a national team.
The government dangles a carrot to entice social media giants to pay for Australian news content. Australia breaks ranks with the US and Israel to join the rest of the world in calling for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. And unemployment falls to its lowest level since March, dampening hopes of an interest rate cut early in the new year. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Joe O'Brien. Australia will spend $600 million over 10 years to get a Papua New Guinea team in the National Rugby League. While the
Tonight, the director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, announcing his resignation under pressure from President-elect Donald Trump. The FBI chief telling employees at a bureau town hall he will resign at the end of the current administration with 3 years left on his 10-year term. It comes after the president-elect announced plans to replace Wray with hardline ally Kash Patel, and days after he criticized Wray in our NBC News interview. Also tonight, the new evidence in the CEO murder investigation. Police saying the suspect's gun matches shell casings at the scene, and his fingerprints match those found on a water bottle and a wrapper nearby, and the writings allegedly found in the suspect's notebook discussing his plans to kill. The explosive wildfire in Malibu destroying homes, 20,000 people forced to evacuate. Among those fleeing the flames, stars like Dick Van Dyke and Cher. The strong storms impacting millions up and down the East Coast. The flash flood threat in New England and wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. The growing mystery over the drones spotted over New Jersey. Where are they coming from and are they a threat? The Pentagon today weighing in. And after some Grinches tried to steal their holiday cheer, the community theater where the show must go on.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome.
Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air, the new turn tonight, what the NYPD has now discovered involving the suspect in the murder of that CEO. Tonight, what we've learned involving evidence, what the NYPD now says about the murder weapon and about a notebook full of writings. Also, the suspect's friends from high school, when the suspect's mother reached out to police, and what we've learned about the family tonight. Also, why authorities are now concerned about people on social media appearing to celebrate the suspect. Aaron Katursky with new reporting. Also breaking, FBI Director Christopher Wray's abrupt resignation announcement amid pressure from President-elect Trump. The powerful storm slamming the East Coast, heavy rain, damaging winds and flash flooding from Philadelphia to New York City up through New England. In the West, the fire in Malibu burning out of control. Dick Van Dyke among those evacuated. Tonight, two brothers, top real estate brokers from New York City to Miami, now arrested on federal sex trafficking charges, what authorities allege they promised, and then what they're accused of doing over many years. Lawmakers sounding the alarm tonight about the mystery drone sightings across the Northeast. Drones coming in off the ocean, weeks now. How is it authorities have no idea who's behind it? And authorities now reacting tonight after a lawmaker claimed it's Iran. James Longman with the haunting images from Syria tonight, the fall of President Bashar al-Assad, and now the difficult images posted outside the morgue. James with the families looking to see if they recognize the bodies now recovered across Damascus. Back in the U.S. tonight, the husband and father of three accused of faking his own death that led to a massive, costly search. Tonight now home from Europe, where police say he went to meet another woman. now facing charges here at home tonight. Our Made in America Christmas is back tonight. The two young firefighters, two brothers, and their American invention. And the rest of their ideas now taking off from New Jersey to Montana to California, fighting fires and creating jobs. And remembering a popular entertainer on Johnny Carson, Merv Griffin, viewers loved him and his psychic powers.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
The murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson is prompting a polarized response, especially online. In tonight's Eye on America, we look into the outpouring of anger, not directed at the shooter, but at the health insurance industry. Here's CBS's Mark Strassman.
It's very hard for me to be empathetic.
Free-floating outrage fuels this American moment.
There are wolves who want to kill you for money.
A targeted killing in Midtown Manhattan, a hooded gunman, and thousands of online posts like, "He's a hero," overwhelmingly side with a shooter.
This guy's bringing the country together.
In New York City, a hooded shooter look-alike contest brought cheap laughs. When shooting suspect Luigi Mangione was arrested in Pennsylvania, online hot takes doubled down.
Which one of you McDonald's employees ratted that guy out?
The web's new hot sellers, free Luigi shirts, deny, defend, depose coffee mugs, delivery before Christmas. Seemingly forgotten, Brian Thompson, United Healthcare's CEO, murdered in cold blood. The 50-year-old husband and father of two sons was buried on Monday. But online voices see him only as the face of a $500 billion health conglomerate. In their eyes, the obstacle to affordable health care.
To many of these critics, it's a business model built on refusing to pay for services. In 2023, United Healthcare denied roughly 33% of all claims, the highest rate in the industry.
The overall industry rate, 19%.
I understand the kind of cultural wash, the response that is kind of washed over a large segment of the population.
Yolanda Wilson is a healthcare ethicist. In January, she needed a hysterectomy. This letter from United Healthcare denied her claim 2 days before her scheduled surgery.
I was surprised. It just kind of sent me into turmoil.
Were you angry?
A little bit.
Maybe more than a little bit?
Probably more than a little bit.
Her surgeon fought for her. The claim was approved. But in a world that's often black and white, her take on the murdered executive has lots of gray.
You don't agree with the shooting?
I don't agree with the shooting.
When it first happened, you weren't sad.
No.
Were you sad for his family?
Yes.
But you were also sad for all the people his company had denied.
Yes.
The decisions are made by multiple people, not just by one person.
We heard more nuance from customers at Pickles Deli in downtown St. Louis. Sure, lots of health insurance horror stories, including Kim's Fahelix.
High premiums, high deductibles.
High frustration?
High frustration.
But everyone we talked to here, like Gary Sims, repudiated the killing.
I can empathize with the frustration that they may have with the insurance process, but that's no excuse whatsoever to gun that man down.
In our recent round of elections, healthcare costs and companies got scant attention from politicians in both parties. Now, everyone's talking about it.
I don't feel bad for this guy.
In voices like that, any hint of compassion for a murdered man and his family denied. For Eye on America, Mark Strassman in St. Louis.
This is not easy for me.
Tonight, the FBI director announces he will resign at the end of the Biden administration before Donald Trump has a chance to fire him. Our new reporting.
I'll be ready to go on day one.
Plus, the powerful foreign leader and American adversary the president-elect has invited to his inauguration. The new forensic evidence police say directly ties the suspect to the murder of the healthcare CEO. Our in-depth look at why the killing sparked a conversation about healthcare in America.
You're just kind of dumping a bunch of money in and you're not getting enough out.
CBS News is inside a Syrian prison camp, housing the families of ISIS fighters.
This woman told us she's been locked up in the dust
for 6 years, but still loves ISIS.
And the mystery drones in the sky over New Jersey. Who could be responsible?
You can look out your window and see anywhere between 4 to 8 of them.
The CBS Evening News starts now.
All right, finally, some good news out of Washington today, where the FBI Director Chris Wray announced that he is now rendering his resignation come January. He will be gone. Kash Patel is Donald Trump's pick to take over the FBI. Wray utterly, completely failed to restore integrity and fairness at the FBI. His past 7 years as director were probably best described by a lengthy letter from Iowa Republican Senator Chuck Grassley. Grassley writes, quote, "Promises made, promises broken has become a recurrent theme under your leadership." According to the Iowa's senior senator, well, Wray ignored Grassley's efforts to investigate possible sexual misconduct against female FBI agents for over a year. The FBI refused congressional oversight of the vetting of Afghan refugees allowed into our country after the fall of Kabul. The Bureau made no effort to investigate serious allegations of bribery against Joe Biden, including from a confidential human source they previously did trust. No efforts to investigate the Bidens and Burisma and Joe leveraging $1 billion to get some prosecutor in Ukraine fired. And they had no problem, of course, raiding Mar-a-Lago, searching Melania Trump's closet, even as Trump was working with FBI officials to return the materials they were seeking.
Good evening. I'm Amna Nawaz. Jeff Bennett is away. On the NewsHour tonight, FBI Director Chris Wray announces his resignation, paving the way for President-elect Trump's choice of Kash Patel to take charge. Syria's uncertain future after the fall of Bashar al-Assad raises concerns about instability in the region. And Judy Woodruff speaks with political analysts about whether the nation can unite in the wake of the presidential election.
This really is a test of who we are. Do I believe we can do it? I believe that we have to believe we can do it, or we have guaranteed that we cannot.
I created the world's smallest arcade machine. It is still pending Guinness's approval or disapproval, but it is a tiny replica of the original Pong machine. Pong, I originally thought it would be the easiest to program, but my goodness was I wrong. The artificial intelligence involved in the competing paddle was pretty difficult in getting the right speed for the paddles. Everything is 100% hand programmed, so I thought it would be easier, but it definitely was not. The design is 3D printed and connected to an Arduino microcontroller. It is a very small space to contain all the components, so it took a ton of designing and then redesigning over and over again until we were able to get everything to fit in the proper space, but I got it to work and it is fully functioning. So for years I've been doing electromechanical designing and building, and I knew that that's the field that I wanted to break the record in. I'm a big gamer too, so that was a big plus, and I got to work. It's just been so exciting.
This is amazing. I love Pong. She is amazing. And if you can believe this, if she's successful, this will be her second world record. When she was in high school, she and her classmates built the world's longest selfie stick. And guess who held that record before them? You won't guess. It was actor Ben Stiller. Who knew?
People in Nanaimo want answers after yesterday's violent stabbing left a 58-year-old city worker with multiple puncture wounds. It happened Tuesday morning in Nanaimo's Maffeo Sutton Park. The victim, who was attacked in the bathroom, is recovering. He doesn't want to be identified, but tells CTV he was stabbed 100 times with a syringe and has 20 puncture wounds to his right cheek and eye. He also broke his hand. His attackers are still at large. Nanaimo is no stranger to violent crime in its city's most central park. Yesterday's daytime assault, however, has locals and the city's mayor asking what needs to change.
There are a number of people on our streets who need treatment and care, including secure and voluntary care. I've been calling for it for over 5 years. I sincerely hope the Premier, who acknowledged it 34 days before the election, and the leader of the official opposition who have acknowledged it, actually do something.
With nationwide reports of worsening mental health, Nanaimo's mayor remains optimistic that provincial spending will come to reflect the urgent need for additional support.
The Bank of Canada's gift to borrowers this Wednesday night. The key interest rate is slashed again.
This is our 5th consecutive decrease since June.
The potential effect on the loonie and the job market. California's fast-moving wildfire swells. The thousands of homes under threat and what's fueling the flames. The compounding consequences of the Canada Post strike.
I'd like to see it end now, like a month ago.
How isolated communities are feeling even more cut off. And he was called the Amazing Kreskin for good reason.
Oh my God!
How George Kresge made a career out of wowing crowds.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Carolyn Jarvis.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Canada's struggling economy.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel's military's continued its massive bombing campaign of Syrian military targets with some 480 strikes in just the past 48 hours. Israeli Defense Chief Israel Katz said his forces had destroyed 15 naval vessels, anti-aircraft batteries, and weapons factories, and were working to create a so-called sterile zone in southern Syria.
Together with the Prime Minister, I instructed the IDF to establish a sterile defense zone against weapons and terror threats in southern Syria in order to prevent the establishment and organization of terror in Syria and to prevent creating a situation that would be similar to what existed in Lebanon and Gaza before October 7th. We will not allow this. We will not allow threats against the state of Israel.
On Tuesday, Syria's ambassador to the United Nations called on the Security Council to act decisively to end the bombings, which he said targeted civilian and military infrastructure. The UN Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Peterson, condemned Israel's assault.
We are continuing to see Israeli movements and bombardments into Syrian territory. This needs to stop. This is extremely important.
The UN envoy said the United Nations would consider removing the Syrian armed group HTS from a list of designated terrorist organizations, but only if it supports a government that's inclusive of all communities. On Tuesday, Syria's new caretaker Prime Minister, Mohammed al-Bashir, met with members of Syria's transitional government, pledging to bring back millions of refugees who fled Syria's 13-year civil war and to keep Syria's public services and institutions running after the ouster of Bashar al-Assad. Meanwhile, human rights groups have confirmed the killing of one of Syria's most prominent opposition activists. The body of Mazen al-Hamada was discovered inside the notorious Sednaya prison near Damascus, alongside about 40 others in the prison morgue who also showed signs of torture. Israel's continued its relentless attacks across northern and central Gaza.
Good morning, I'm Oliver Farry, and this is Daybreak. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol doubles down and says he will stay in office 1 week after his botched attempt at imposing martial law. Yoon defended his decision and said he will fight to the end, despite being banned from leaving the country as an investigation into last week's events is conducted. We'll be going live to our correspondent, Yenna Lee. The head of Syria's transitional government says that the country will be rebuilt and the rights of all religious groups will be guaranteed. Prime Minister Mohammed al-Bashir said there will also be justice for victims of Bashar al-Assad's regime. while Islamist rebel leader Abu Muhammad al-Jalani called on Syrians who had fled the country to return. FBI Director Christopher Wray announces he will step down at the end of Joe Biden's term in office in January. Wray has 3 more years of his tenure to run, but President-elect Donald Trump, who first appointed him, intends to name loyalist Kash Patel to the job. And in football, Saudi Arabia celebrates being named host of the 2034 World Cup. It won a race that FIFA did its best to ensure it would run in unopposed. The news has been condemned by human rights groups, including the sister of a jailed feminist activist. Embattled South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has vowed to fight on.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. Ahmed al-Sharaa, the leader of Syria's rebel coalition, says there will be no pardons for officials involved in torturing prisoners under the ousted Assad regime. He asked other countries to hand over any individuals who may have been involved. Thousands of prisoners have been released since the government was overthrown. FIFA has confirmed that Saudi Arabia will host the 2034 Football World Cup, saying the men's football tournament will encourage social change in the kingdom, including more rights for women. Human rights groups warn that the construction of stadiums and transport networks will put migrant workers' lives at risk. Ethiopia and Somalia have reached a deal resolving a nearly year-old bitter dispute. The two nations were at loggerheads after Ethiopia agreed to recognise the independence of Somalia's breakaway region of Somaliland back in January. The resolution came after hours of talks in Ankara, brokered by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. This is DW News from Berlin. You'll find much more on our website, to be found at
Promising stability and calm, Syria's caretaker prime minister has called on millions of refugees to return home. Hello and welcome to TRT World Live from Istanbul with me, Charlotte Brearetney. Also coming up on the show. Israel kills more than 20 people across Gaza, including 8 Palestinians responsible for securing aid trucks in Rafah. Hopes of a fresh start for Ethiopia and Somalia after a deal is reached in Ankara to end a year-long dispute. And the embattled South Korean president defends his declaration of martial law and vows to fight until the end.
This is Asia Now.
It is noon in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 a.m. in New Delhi, 11 o'clock in Jakarta. Good afternoon, I'm Yasmin Yonkers at this hour. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol vows to fight until the very last minute, despite growing calls for his resignation or impeachment. He's defended his decision last week to declare martial law and deploy troops to the country's parliament. Australia inks a rugby deal with Papua New Guinea on the condition it remains PNG's top security partner as Australia and China compete for influence in the Pacific. And Syria's transitional government working to restore order in the war-torn nation, a huge stabilizing task for the interim leader Mohammed al-Bashir, who urges those who fled to return and help rebuild. The South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has defended his short-lived martial law declaration. The leader said in an address to the nation that his decree had been legal, adding that it does not constitute an insurrection.
She's got very little mobility. She hasn't got the vision, so it's impossible for Louis to cook a meal. She couldn't function without the care.
There you go.
But the council did try and cut Louisa's care, hoping to reduce her support hours by half in the face of their own funding black hole.
It was cut by half.
What did the council tell you about that?
Well, they just cut it.
With no explanation?
With no explanation. I didn't know how I was going to manage if it was cut so much.
Does it make you angry?
Yeah. And they shouldn't cut the services.
While ultimately lawyers fought to keep her care in place, the threat of taking Good away left her feeling so down she ended up feeling suicidal. It was Louisa's dad who had to pick up the pieces.
That's all I want. Louise just can't cope without that sort of fundings for when she gets up in the morning, lunchtime and tea and going to bed. She just can't move. She can't get out of the chair. I'm getting on a bit. And what I want to do now is to give her all the extra support to make her life happy whilst I can. That's not unusual, is it?
France begins its withdrawal from Chad as it's maintained about 1,000 troops in Chad. It's not clear when they would leave.
At least 175 people have been reported dead and dozens injured after a series of airstrikes hit Sudan's capital and other regions on Monday and Tuesday. Unpredicted and unregulated school fees is becoming a hindrance to many children to access schools in Uganda.
The 2027 Women's World Cup is set to take place in Brazil from June 24th to July 25th, as announced by...
Today meets the European Council President, where he'll hold talks on defence cooperation with the EU.
Thousands of veterans who were ejected from the military because of their sexual orientation or gender identity will be able to receive up to £70,000 each in compensation in order to correct historic wrongs, a 50% rise to the financial recognition scheme.
It's Christmas party season, which also means a few festive faux pas may occur, as we know here at GB News. But how do we deal with them? We'll be joined by an etiquette expert.
Cooking Christmas on a budget? Well, we're going to be joined by TV chef Rosemary Schrager for all of her festive tips.
The Football Association is accused of sports washing following the announcement that Saudi Arabia will host the 2034 World Cup. We're asking, should they be allowed to?
You doing the sport? No. What was that? That was a bit sporty, wasn't it?
It was a bit sporty.
That was a bit sporty. Okay. We have some sport details. Manchester City are in all sorts of trouble as they lose to Juventus, and Arsenal looked very good at the Champions League last night.
Hello there, good morning. Another cloudy and grey day ahead with some rain and drizzle at times. Some brighter weather too. I'll be here later with all the details.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
I mean, I'm quite happy for you to do a debate on the World Cup.
Are you really?
I am.
I'm good.
But no, you're not bothered. You're not bothered.
Have you honestly, you see the stadiums? It's so dodgy. I mean, the whole thing.
Is it?
It's so, I mean, really. I mean, the money it's all about FIFA and their money, and of course, we know what it's like. Yeah. Saudi Arabia and...
Are they going to have to play it in winter?
Yeah, see, they'll have to play it in January.
So it's going to mess up the...
Yeah, again. Yeah, that's going to cause trouble in January.
So she's doing a research for this debate.
Absolutely.
I heard it on the radio yesterday, actually, so I was across those.
Christmas parties.
Yeah.
Why do we have office Christmas parties?
For morale.
But it's not morale, is it? Because it's always people just have to do the walk of shame and wear the dark glasses the next morning and...
It's just knowing...
There's always something that goes on, isn't there?
As Kenny Rogers said, again, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. You know what I mean? You have a few drinks, but you've got to know when to stop. But there's always those couple that just go just a little bit too far, and you think, oh dear.
Yeah.
Have you ever found, honestly, in all the years, at a Christmas party, have you ever embarrassed yourself at all?
No.
Have you ever been to
safely say I haven't.
Have
you?
Yeah. No, I think a few times. I do remember. I mean, this is nothing to be proud of, but I do.
Thank you for sparing your precious time. This is Amir Shakil. Have a good life. Bye-bye.